Great presidents have always put country over ego. And one of the biggest sacrifices you can make as president is knowing when your time's up. In 1848, President James Polk announced he wasn't running for a second term. The reason? He accomplished everything he wanted to accomplish in one term, and he had poor health. And it was the right decision, because Polk died just months into what would have been the beginning of his second term. The American people should never gamble with their presidential vote. And Biden knows this better than anyone.
Is age a legitimate issue?
It is a legitimate issue. Sure it is. And I think people are going to judge it. If I were to run, I think they're going to judge me on my vitality. Can I still run up the steps of Air Force Two? Am I still in good shape? Do I have all my faculties? Am I energetic? I think it's totally legitimate for people to ask those questions.
Joe Biden now lumbers up the short steps of Air Force One, has diminished faculties, and based on his schedule, lacks energy. The president's own Justice Department spent 5 hours with him and concluded he's painfully slow and struggles to remember events and couldn't even remember when he was vice president. Asking, quote, if it was in 2013, when did I stop being vice president? Also asking, in 2009, am I still vice president? The president's garage looks like a man who has diminished faculties, because lumped in next to broken lamps and potting soil were boxes of top-secret American intelligence documents. I judge a man by how organized his garage and basement are. You know, the places that only the homeowner sees, and this wasn't good. The special counsel said he wouldn't charge President Biden because a jury would view him as a sympathetic, doddering old man who couldn't be held accountable because he couldn't remember. He couldn't even remember when his own son died. The president was furious that this came out and has been screaming at his staff all day. And it showed when he appeared at 8 o'clock in the evening last night.
I'm well-meaning, and I'm an elderly man, and I know what the hell I'm doing. I've been president. I put this country back on its feet. I don't need his recommendation. It's totally
How bad is your memory, and can you continue as president?
My memory is so bad, I let you speak.
People have been watching, and they have expressed concerns about your age.
That is your judgment. That is your judgment. That is not the judgment of the press. As you know, initially, the president of Mexico, Sisi.
What you heard at the end was the president confusing the leaders of Egypt and Mexico, after shaking his fists and proclaiming he has a fine memory and he knows what the hell he's doing. Playing the loyal soldier, Kamala called the whole thing a witch hunt.
What I saw of that report last night, I believe is, as a former prosecutor, the comments that were made by that prosecutor, gratuitous, inaccurate, and inappropriate. The president's demeanor in that report was characterized, could not be more wrong on the facts, and clearly politically motivated.
Kamala has lunch with Biden once a week. She knows the president's demeanor better than anyone. Everyone who works with the president knows he's slow, but the White House has orchestrated one of the biggest cover-ups in American political history. And it's all now coming out.
If the special counsel says President Biden's got significant limitations on his memory, then who is helping him run the country?
The President of the United States runs the country. The Commander-in-Chief runs the country.
How can he be trusted with the nuclear codes if, I get that you're saying that nobody in the building would say that he's got an issue with his memory, but just the little part of what we get to see, he's made mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake on camera this week.
So I'm going to be very clear here. The reality is that report, that part of the report, does not live in reality. It just doesn't.
But the reality is last night, Democrats were wetting the bed.
Look, I'm a Biden supporter, and I slept like a baby last night. I woke up every 2 hours crying and wet the bed. This is terrible for Democrats, and anybody with a functioning brain knows that.
After waking up in their damp beds, the political pros are getting ready to pull the plug.
He's 12 years older than, or more than when I worked with him, 15 years older than when I worked with him. So yes, he's not exactly the same. This has been something that's been plaguing the president throughout this campaign and before, this sense that he has lost a step, that he's not with it. Public perception is formed by how you perform in front of the camera. And on that, I think the president has lost a step, and it has hurt him. And it has created these questions that are the central challenge for him in this campaign.
So Paul Begala and Dave Axelrod represent the Clinton and Obama political machines. And they're secretly rooting for Biden to announce he's not running for re-election for personal reasons that we don't have time to get into. But the left has been given cover now to say aloud what they've been whispering amongst each other for years. Behind the scenes, Jill Biden and White House staff have been keeping the president in a bubble. After Biden took questions at a news conference just last year, sources say Jill's look on her face told everyone in the room, from the president on down, that they had some explaining to do. She demanded to know, why didn't anyone stop that? Telling staff, quote, where was the person who was going to end the press conference? The media participated in the cover-up knowing there were issues, but they never thought the reality of his mental state would be certified by the Justice Department. Suddenly, the press began fact-checking the president. Watch.
One thing that President Biden said is basically that he stored the documents in filing cabinets that could be locked.
Just not true.
Another claim that President Biden made, none of the documents were highly classified.
That claim that he didn't have any material that was quote-unquote high classified is also not true.
Not only is Biden now verifiably diminished, but he lied multiple times about what was in the report. That he's a reckless mess that shares classified information and exposes national security secrets, and has a garage that looks like a Hoarders episode. This undercuts the entire rationale of the Biden presidency, a wise statesman who we could trust to manage America and the world. But everywhere around us was mismanaged, from the border to the streets to the Middle East. Now, deep down, the media is relieved they can stop lying about how Biden's Einstein.
This is becoming a 5-alarm fire for the White House.
Mexico? Where did that come from? And politically, how do you explain that?
To mix up the president of Egypt with the president of Mexico because his name sounds like Sisi? That's bizarre.
It's pretty embarrassing for Biden, but on the bright side, he'll forget about it 5 minutes later.
Let's just thank God this is not October. Because if it were, it would be, a Comey moment in the Hillary Clinton situation, where the justice side of the three branches kind of weighs in. So it is weighty.
But most partisan media is still clinging to the big lie that the big guy's with it.
Painfully slow. And I just thought, well, who's in pain? Like, what that adverb is such a... It's doing so much work editorially. You're in pain because it takes too long.
If you asked me to, identify precisely when I was where, what years, et cetera, I would have under that sort of adversarial questioning, I would have a tough time.
Why would he want to remember the day that his son died?
I promise everybody on this panel right now has misspoken and said the wrong name or the wrong, the wrong date in a conversation.
Let's call it what it is. This is ageism snuck into a report.
The man is 80 years old.
He rides a bike.
Oh, he thinks Mexico's in the Middle East, but he can ride a bike. Now, when the media is divided, it's dangerous for the Democrat Party because a mob only works when it fights in unison. The left's most effective when it's all reading the same talking points and repeating them with commendable discipline. Now, once the propaganda splinters, the Democratic Party's exposed and can't stand. CNN and MSNBC duking it out over who's running the country is fatal for Democrat chances next year. This leaves Democrat politicians in survival mode. They'll have to distance themselves from the top of the ticket, and they won't have the media running interference for them by keeping the heat on Trump. Now, the right has kept the left on the defensive now for 2 straight weeks. First on the border, now on Biden's brain. They should push the corruption issue because the impeachment factor will highlight the bribes. We don't have answers for that yet. And the media, which above all else is a business, can't hitch their wagons to the oldest, most unpopular president staring down the barrel of an impeachment, who's losing to Trump in every battleground, sees dead people, and whose son is facing 9 felonies. How can the media say, vote for a man with diminished faculties? How does that save democracy? We're at a crossroads now, And responsible adults have to choose what's best for the country.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.